Alright everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I want to talk Canelo versus Crawford. Now, I'm going to make a lot of lead up videos to this fight because it is a once in a lifetime fight. But what I want to talk about today, we're not going to do predictions. We're not going to do, what does this mean for this person? We're not going to do any of that. I want to know, Canelo versus Crawford, what is the impact this fight and its result going to have on either's legacy? And who is the win more important for? And who is the loss more detrimental to? Let's start with Canelo. I want to talk first Canelo's record, his wins, his accomplishments, and we're going to do the same for Crawford. Let's look at Canelo. 35 years of age now, 63 wins, 39 knockouts, 2 losses, and 2 draws. Biggest wins of his career: Shane Mosley, Erislandy Lara, Miguel Cotto, Amir Khan, Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., Sergey Kovalov. That one was a light heavyweight title win. I think that's important to remember as well. Jamel Charlo. And if we look at some of the big wins that he's had where he's taken someone's O, we're looking at Austin Trout, Liam Smith, Gennady Golovkin, Callum Smith, Billy Joe Saunders, Caleb Plant, Jaime Munguia, and Edgar Berlanga. Now, I do want everyone to remember, when we talk about what their accomplishments are and their wins and their losses, it is quite easy to get sort of hooked on how this fighter might have ended their career or how we look at them now or how perceptions change. I think it's important to remember how those fights were looked at when the fights were made. What was Canelo like? What was their opponent like? Everything else, because it's easy, especially look at that Edgar Berlanga. We'll just take him for the example. It's easy now to say, yeah, but Edgar Berlanga's not really that good. He got destroyed by Hamza Shiraz. He was supposed to cause Canelo problems in that fight. We're talking about undefeated fighter, a big name, and by all accounts he did well, Edgar Berlanga. All of that changes when we see that fight against Hamza Shiraz, but I think it's important to remember, we look at Billy Joe Saunders. He was undefeated going into that fight. He hasn't really fought. I think he hasn't fought since. And you can say what you want, but we're talking about when that fight was made. How were these fights perceived? What are they? You look at bigger wins like Erislandy Lara. Like, the guy's 41. He's still a world champion. So let's remember that when we talk about this. It is sometimes easy to get caught up in, what happens after the fact, or where are they now, or everything else. And look, some of them are justifiable. Some of them you may have gone over the top with at the time, and we've seen after it, he wasn't really all of that. And you could probably say that for Edgar Berlanga, to be honest. But let's continue. His losses come to Floyd Mayweather Jr. and Dimitri Bivol, and his draws come to Gennady Golovkin in the first bout and Jorge Juarez. Now, Jorge Juarez, he fought a 4-round fight, came to a split decision draw, and that was in Canelo's 5th fight in his professional career back in 2006. So look into that what you will, really. And his accomplishments: welterweight world champion, super welterweight world champion, middleweight world champion, 2-time undisputed super middleweight world champion, and light heavyweight world champion. Let's take this to Crawford now. 37 years of age, 41 wins, 31 knockouts, 0 losses, 0 draws. Biggest wins: Ricky Burns, Amir Khan, Kell Brook, Sean Porter. Some of the big O's that he's taken include Gamboa, Victor Postal, Julius Indongo, Jeff Horn, Jose Benavidez Jr., Errol Spence Jr., and Israel Madrimov. His accomplishments include light heavyweight world champion, undisputed super lightweight world champion, undisputed welterweight world champion, and interim super welterweight world champion. A pound for pound star. We both know who they are. Now, I want to talk, who is this win more important for? You look at the legacies, you look at the careers, you look at the wins, you look at the names. For me, the win is probably, who's it going to impact more? I think it boosts Crawford's resume more. I think at the end of the day, if Crawford can say that he's undisputed super middleweight world champion, he has beaten Canelo Crawford in Canelo's weight division, I think that speaks more to than saying Canelo beating Crawford at super middleweight, doesn't get any new belts. It is a big name though. It is a big name. Canelo saying Crawford, but then I worry hey, are they going to say, yeah, but you beat Crawford in super middleweight, rather when they say Crawford beat Canelo at super middleweight? You know what I mean? It does get twisted. And that's why I wanted to make this video beforehand, because it's easy after the fact to make excuses and say different things to cover each fighter. But in terms of before the fight, how are we feeling towards this fighter? For me, I think a win for Crawford over Canelo certifies him even more. I think it's unbelievable the amount of credit Crawford will get for beating Canelo. I think we will give Canelo a lot of benefits and a lot of credit for beating Crawford. I do see that excuse lurking in the background of, yeah, but Crawford was coming up, but, you know, the size, but, you know, Canelo, but, you know, it's easy to say after the fact, especially if you're a Crawford fan, you're going to cover his ass however you want, and the same with Canelo if he loses. For me, I think it comes down to who would prefer to lose this fight. I think a loss to Crawford seriously hampers that resume. I think, especially because of what Floyd Mayweather did, that O is so important, and keeping that O is so important. 42-0 and 0 is big for Crawford, and it adds a name to a record that has been looked at by some people, looked down upon. Some of his opponents, we heard it even in the face-off when Canelo asked him, you know, who have you fought? And he said Victor Postal, and that whole meme was going around. But Canelo, in my honest opinion, Crawford beating Canelo, I don't think it has much impact on how we're going to look at Canelo. Whereas if Canelo beats Crawford, I think we look differently at how we see Crawford. And I say that because Canelo has suffered losses. He has lost to Floyd Mayweather. He has lost to Dimitri Bivol. That worry of how we're going to look at him with the losses, he's already got them. It makes no difference. Whereas one thing when you speak about Crawford is he's world champion in multiple divisions, undisputed and undefeated, right? That is a big thing to say, he's undefeated. And if that gets taken away by Canelo, all of a sudden you're looking at him and you're saying, great champion, multiple divisions, 41-1, great fighter. Shame he wasn't undefeated. You know, one of the biggest names on his resume, Canelo, he was unable to beat. I think all of that starts to look differently. People will start looking back saying, well, Israel Madrimov lost to you, but he also lost to Virgil Ortiz. You know, all sorts of different things start to be questioned. Whereas Crawford right now is sitting pretty with an undefeated record and multiple world championships. So to round up, I do think that a Canelo win boosts Canelo resume massively. I think a Crawford win really boosts Crawford, because I think we'll all look at the wins differently. I think we look at a Canelo win differently to a Crawford win. And I think it all comes down to the weight division. Crawford does get another undisputed division. Canelo doesn't have any more belts to gain. He's got the name and that's about it, and the fact that he took Crawford 0. So I think it all comes down to who is the loss bigger for, and for me, I think the loss is bigger for Crawford. I think his resume will be questioned if he loses to Canelo, and I think it'll be big on his legacy because it will remove that O. Now, predictions. I'm going to make prediction video when it gets closer to this fight. We're talking 29th of August today. The fight is in 2 weeks. I'm going to still make some more videos leading up to the fight, make some predictions, talk about the weigh-in, everything else, because this is such an exciting fight. But I want to hear from you guys in the comments. How does a win or a loss to each of these fighters impact their career? And how are we going to look at them depending on the outcome to this fight? Stay tuned, subscribe to the channel, more videos in the lead up. Like, subscribe if you're new. Like I said, hop in those comments, and I'm out of here, guy. See ya!